They want to get this through like now. They want to lock him up now, and then he can sit in jail, I guess, and wait on appeal. Well, his campaign is out today with a message. You know what? You can throw us in jail. It doesn't matter. We're still campaigning. We're still running for the Oval Office of the Presidency of the United States of America. Meanwhile, the press is like, wow, this will be interesting. Can New York even handle that? Should they throw him in jail? I'm going to tell you right now, right here and now. If Judge Merchan throws him in jail, it'll be the biggest, most fatal error the Democrats have made in decades. And they've made a lot of errors, okay? So that's saying a lot. But this would be the big kahuna. This would be the biggest error. And I think at that point, Americans say, okay, enough already, game over. He is the next president of the United States. And Rikers Island's going to be the new Oval Office. Listen to the mayor of New York City saying, we're prepared, we're ready, we can handle this.
Hey, Mayor. So at President Trump's trial, they were talking about how he might end up in jail if he continues to violate these court orders. Is Rikers prepared for that? Do you guys have those discussions yet? And if so, what would that even look like?
Our amazing commissioner, she is prepared for whatever comes on Rikers Island. I'm pretty sure she would be prepared to manage and deal with the situation. As you see what's happening with Harvey Weinstein. We have to adjust, in this business, particularly around law enforcement, we have to adjust whatever comes our way, but, we don't want to deal with a hypothetical, but they're professionals. They'll be ready.
Corrections yet? I'm sorry. You haven't had those.
Okay, so they're ready. And by the way, there's one woman who just can't wait. She's just hoping that justice is brought sooner rather than later. She's pretty upset that, Florida decided to postpone the classified documents case. You know, the one where it's now come forward that Jack Smith's team tampered with the evidence there in Florida. Judge Aileen Cannon saying, okay, we're going to postpone this one. I'm going to postpone it indefinitely. Meanwhile, I get the Supreme Court having to weigh in on a few other things. Hillary Clinton, the woman who lost out, the woman who should have been president if it weren't for the darn Russians, if Donald Trump hadn't stolen the election, her words, not mine. She would have been president. Boy, is she angry. She was on Morning Joe this morning expressing that very issue. Justice needs to be done, she said. Watch.
Well, Mika, I'm happy to go to therapy with you anytime because clearly the pressure and the stress on our system, our country, our Constitution, our future is so intense for those of us who understand what's at stake. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way to others, but if you've been in this world as you and I have, and you've studied it and you've watched it, it is a very difficult time right now. Justice delayed is justice denied. And the people in our country, it looks as though will most likely go to vote without knowing the outcome of these other very serious trials. And the one that is going on now currently in New York is really about election interference. It is about trying to prevent the people of our country from having relevant information that may have influenced how they could have voted in 2016 or whether they would have voted. I think that the defendant, the former president, knew exactly what he was doing when he went to such great lengths to try to squash, bury, kill stories, pay off people, because he understood the electoral significance of them. So I think that this is not, though, about the past, because the other cases are about election interference. And he's practically promised us, if you listen to him at his rallies, you read his interview with Time magazine, that if he doesn't like the way the election turns out, he's going to do something again to try to prevent the lawful winner from taking office. I mean, I was Secretary of State traveling around the world on behalf of our country, trying to persuade leaders to believe in democracy, to believe in the peaceful transfer of power, to accept election results after appropriate challenges were made. And, Trump had all the time in the world to make those challenges, and he was shut down by courts. He was denied by Republican as well as Democratic election officials because there was no evidence. This is all about power, how to get it, how to keep it, how not to give it up. That is so opposite of everything we believe or should believe in our country about how we are a nation of laws, not of men. And they are men who try to put themselves above the law, try to hang on to power. The other point I would quickly make is that the Supreme Court is doing our country a grave disservice in not deciding the case about immunity. I read the excellent decision by the Court of Appeals, and the judges there, I think, covered every possible argument. And what we heard when this case was tried before the Supreme Court, to my ear at least, were efforts to try to find loopholes, to try to create an opportunity for Trump to have attempted to overturn an election, to have carried out hundreds and hundreds of pages of very highly classified material for his own amusement, interest, trading, we don't know what. These are very serious charges against any American, but someone who's both been a president and wants to be a president again. That should cause any voter to think not twice, but many, many times over about whether we should entrust our country to him.
Wow. I mean, the contest. You'd agree with me on that, right? Very hard to listen to this woman. It's not fun. But anyway, that's Hillary Clinton. You saw her there on Morning Joe going on and on and on. Can we go down to memory lane, Drew? Do we have that clip from was it 2016, this debate? I remember I was live there covering it, and it was a very tense moment when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were going at each other. And, he basically promised that she would be in a whole lot of trouble because you see, well, what did she do? She just kind of deleted all those emails that she was keeping on her own private server, which actually was kind of a criminal type thing. So everybody's saying, oh, she's going to go to jail for this. She's going to go to jail for it. And he sort of threatened that. Here, let's take a look.
Can fact check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking because, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
I'm sorry, it was really funny. Is my head getting cut off in this shot? Let's see. This is how you know it's real-time TV. Drew, text me if it is, if I need to put my seat a little bit lower. I'm just looking at the monitor and it looks a little bit off. You guys can weigh in too, because I rely on you for the production help. Anyway, Hillary Clinton there with Donald Trump. Wow. And, she wants him in jail now. So he had the opportunity basically to do that. I've talked to him about it. I'm like, why didn't you? And he said, I didn't because I felt like it was just sort of the wrong thing to do. I mean, she was the wife of a former president. She was a candidate. She had run for office. And we're not a banana republic. I mean, he really did was like, I thought about it and I just thought it was the wrong thing to do. And then lo and behold, what are they doing to him? Exactly what he had the decency not to do. She talks about how it's all about clinging on to power. What do you think these guys are doing but clinging on to power in every way that they can? That's why they've got lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit. That's why we have lawfare, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you have Letitia James trying to go after him for $500 million for something that really, where's the victim? Had no victim in. I go back to this, okay, we're going to kick you out of New York City. We're going to take your properties. We're going to take everything as though we're Venezuela because you overinflated the square footage of Mar-a-Lago and said it was worth X when we think it was worth Y. Letitia, come on, what, 18 million bucks? I'll buy it if it's 18 million bucks, okay? And I'm in. $18 million. I'll write the check today. If Mar-a-Lago is worth $18 million, that is a trade you take all day long, ladies and gentlemen, okay? It's insane. Absolutely insane. So you get these New York City DAs that are trying to make their political careers swooping in, trying to decide the valuation of properties after Deutsche Bank, his lender, and he, the owner of the property, came to an agreement. And by the way, he paid all the money back. I mean, this is bizarre. And Hillary Clinton to sit there and say that kind of garbage, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. Hillary Clinton was not done. Hillary Clinton had a near meltdown of, I would say for her, epic proportions. Going on her favorite network, MSNBC, today, hanging out with Joe and Mika, she just let loose, really loose. And it was a total meltdown. And she started evoking some really frightening times in history because, you see, she's trying to frighten you. And she figures if she can just keep forward with these wild accusations against Donald Trump, maybe at some point something's going to stick. Instead, it's the little boy who cried wolf over and over and over and over again, and people are darn sick of it. But you got to see it because, anytime Hillary Clinton melts down and freaks out, it's worth seeing. Take a peek.
The world has been here before. People did not take the kind of threats that we saw in the 1930s as seriously as they should, including American journalists. People were taking at face value that, this can be controlled. He may have said some outrageous things, but, the institutions will hold. A determined demagogue, unfortunately supported by members of his political party, other enablers, people who care more about a future tax cut than the sanctity of the Constitution, are falling in line behind him. They are trying to excuse some of the most outrageous things that you just recited. And I don't think the press has done enough to basically say, okay, the circus is here. You can watch the circus, but let's tell you what that means. Let's talk to people who have a real understanding of how dictatorships evolve. Let's look at the people that he admires and what they've already done. Back in 2016, we didn't have interviews with him. We didn't have a track record of 4 years in office. There was a lot of speculation, and, I understood that people wouldn't take what I said necessarily as gospel about what I thought could happen. I get that. But now we know. We've seen him and we've heard him. And so we need to do a better job of making it absolutely clear that someone who says these things, maybe he wouldn't jail all of his political opponents. One is one too many. Maybe he wouldn't try to force out of business the, members of the press who didn't agree with him. One is one too many. We go down the line. And maybe this would be our last election, because someone who will not accept the validity of an election is someone who doesn't believe in elections. He believes in his own power, his own right to power, and his demand that he be installed regardless of whether he gets the votes or not.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, taking a reporter out, for goodness sakes. What do you think actually went down? Remember? The whole, it's not Hunter Biden's laptop? And any reporter that dares to say otherwise, right? Twitter accounts, this, that, and the other. I mean, I'm sorry. There have been edicts sent down from Biden that have very much affected the press. So don't give me that song and dance, lady. Don't give it to me. I mean, she and making these accusations about the 1930s, my God, I mean, how insensitive, ladies and gentlemen, to anyone who had a relative that fought in World War II. How insensitive to anyone from a Jewish heritage. Millions of people were murdered, and yet she is comparing Donald Trump because he happens to be tough on the border and he happens to have a few clues on the economy and he happens to want peace in the world. She's comparing him to a leader of that time? You understand how insulting and egregious and despicable that is? She's despicable. You may be deplorable, but she's despicable. Really. And she's never challenged. They just sit there like little puppy dogs, little lap dogs. Yes, 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 tell us more, tell us more. I mean, this is the woman who seems to still think that she would have won had it not been for the Russians. She had Jimmy Carter say he's not a legitimate president. Not a legitimate president. He wasn't legitimately elected because the Russians interfered. Russia, 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 Russia. How much time do we have to waste on Russia when it turned out, lo and behold, it was Hillary Clinton's campaign that bought and paid for the research, the opposition research, the dirty dossier against Donald Trump. Think about all of that, ladies and gentlemen, okay? As she tells you all this, her little song and dance, she's tap dancing. She's got a new show on Broadway, actually, about the women's movement and the right to vote and all that. And it's literally like she's doing the tap dance right there for the world to see, not just on Broadway. She's not in it, by the way, thank God, but on national television. Donald Trump is not allowed to say boo as far as they are concerned. Donald Trump was not allowed to ask, hey, maybe we should have a recount here or there. Not allowed. And if he dares to do it again, I'll tell you, he better win by a country mile. Because if not, be prepared. I mean, she was prepared. She was already advising Joe Biden of something just weeks before November of 2020. Remember this. I like this clip because you got to understand where her mindset is at. If this election was close, guess what? They were going to hang on for dear life. God forbid he do it. Take a peek.
You know, Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
You see? So that's what you can expect this time around, too. She's not going to give an inch.